Okay, the second order that we deal with in the clade Xenarthra is the order Pilosa. Pilosa are the sloths, the three-toed sloths and the two-toed sloths. Although you know from our discussions about fossil mammals of the San Joaquin Valley here that we used to have giant ground sloths. They're no longer around. They're all went extinct tens to hundreds of thousands of years ago. And but these are very interesting animals, also generally classified as anteaters, although the sloths are not so much in that diet area. They're more folivorous and live in the trees. The first family we're going to deal with is the Bradypodidae. The Bradypodidae, the three-toed sloths. There are 4 species in one genus here, and the one model that we have is Bradypus linnaeus, and they have a very distinctive skull. It looks like it's broken, as if the front of it got broken off, but that's actually what it looks like. And here's the lower jaw. The lower jaw is very robust. I'll zoom in on them in a moment. So this is the three-toed sloth. There's the order Pilosa actually is divided into 2 suborders: the Folivora, which are the sloths that live in the trees and are more herbivorous than anything, and the suborder Vermilingua, the anteaters. And there are a few families of anteaters as well. I will get to those in a moment, but for now I just want to stick with the sloths for a few minutes. Like I said, we only have the three-toed sloth here, very distinctive skull. But there's also a two-toed sloths in another family, Chilipodidae. And there are 2 species in one genus of two-toed sloth, and there are 4 species in one genus of three-toed sloth. And if you look at the teeth, they're very peg-like. Let me see if I can leave it just sitting on the counter here, on the bench, and we can zoom in on it. But the two-toed sloth is a little different. They have premolars that are what we call caniniform. Caniniform means that they have that they look like canines. Here you can see that these teeth are peg-like, and so these are the upper teeth, and the rostrum, the snout, is somewhat truncated. See it there? It's like as if it got broken off, but that's actually how it is. Also, look at that. What's happening here? The zygomatic arch is incomplete. See it on both sides? I have an incomplete zygomatic arch. So these animals have a very interesting ecology. You saw a good bit about it in the 3rd Life of Mammals video. You looked at life in the trees. So there was some good discussion in there about sloths. They have big claws on their feet and they hang upside down under branches. They only come down to the ground to defecate, and there's a lot of debate over why they do that. Why do they only come to the ground to defecate? You know, why bother? Can't they take a poop in the trees and let it drop like some other arboreal creatures do? Here you can see the lower jaw again with more of these peg-like teeth. But one hypothesis that is used to explain this behavior of coming down to ground is that there's the dung piles are a form of chemical communication. so that they're kind of signposts to other sloths and to perhaps other species too. Another unusual facet associated with them, they're very coarse fur. And algae, because of the wet tropical climate that they live in, they're very slow moving. You've heard the expression, or the expression slothful, has been kind of lazy or slow. But the fur is very coarse, and so sometimes for some of these, green algae will grow in the fur. So the animals can look greenish in color because of this. So that is a three-toed sloth. Try to say that quickly, a little bit of a tongue twister. Very distinctive skulls, very different from the armadillo that you saw in the previous video, the first video on the Cingulata, the order Cingulata. Okay, the next family that we want to look at, this was the family Bradypodidae, the three-toed sloths. We're also going to take a look at an even more distinctive skull now when we look at the family Myrmecophagidae. So, family Myrmecophagidae are the anteaters, and in particular, we're going to deal with the giant anteater Myrmecophagia tridactyla. And you saw this species in the second of the Life of Mammals videos. You looked at I think it was called Insect Hunters or whatever, and these are prodigious anteaters. They can powerful claws, and they can tear apart termite mounds, termite mounds are like, to us they would appear like they're made of concrete, and these things can rip them apart. And Attenborough had a very nice description of their ecology. And we've got a skull here, and you cannot mistake this for anything else. There you go. Have you ever seen a mammal skull like that? So it's a long, slender snout, which goes with the appearance of the animal that you saw in the video, or you'll see in photos in your textbook and in your lab manual. The giant eater. This thing is about a foot long or so. Of course, this is a model. Now, this is a true edentate. Here, I can't separate the lower jaw, but here you can see this is the rear end of the lower jaw. This would be kind of the angular process, and this where it articulates here. And the lower jaw runs all the way up here, up to my left hand, my thumb up here. And there are no teeth whatsoever. And they have a very long tongue that it goes into the termite nests, or when they're after, and ants too, whatever they can get. The Life of Mammals video also had some interesting commentary about their metabolic rate, and so on, that they are not the fastest, most energetic animals on Earth, but they've evolved along with their diet of ants and termites over the millennia, and there's no need for them to change because that same type of food has been around for millions of years, and it hasn't changed that much. Notice they do not have a complete zygomatic arch either. It's an incomplete zygomatic arch. So these are the two families in the order Pilosa that you look at. The Bradypodidae and the Myrmecophagidae, the giant anteater. Like I said, it would be hard to confuse this skull with anything else. perhaps sometimes the bird skulls, but if you could feel this, this is pretty heavy. It's a robust skull. Okay, we'll call a halt here, and then we're going to move on to the other two clades separately, the Afrotheria and the Ferae.